And I started to realise this on Action, that the 3-page format is too cramped. It's asking too much of everyone. You've got to start expanding a bit. And that's why I increasingly looked towards Europe. I thought, well, this isn't working properly. I don't want to imitate American comics, which I have a fairly low opinion of. How do I get this to work properly? I don't want to go back to British comics. So I looked at Europe, and I looked at what the French were doing and the Italians. I thought, this is great. And increasingly, even in the course of Action, they became my role model for where I wanted to go.
Moving on to the Death Game, origins and your thoughts and feelings about the game of Spinball.
Okay. I was pursuing this policy of looking at films of the 70s and trying to do similar stories. And Rollerball, of course, is a fantastic, fantastic film. And so I said to Jeff Kemp, who was then my editor on Action, I said, we have to come up with something like Rollerball, because this is what our readers clearly like. We found our target audience. They like tough, gritty stories. They don't want the silly stories that have gone before, arguably in Lion and Valiant, and the rather more sedate stories that had appeared previously in Hotspur and Hornet. And Jeff came up with the idea. I said, let's have a death game. And he said, what about it being like a giant pinball? And that was a brilliant idea. And we developed it, and it had to go to a good sports writer if it was going to work. And the obvious choice was a writer called Tom Tully, who'd written a number of sports stories. And he really went for it. And it really brought something out very good in him. And the readers responded very, very positively to it. I mean, one of my favourite examples is this reader writes in and he says, we've been playing our own version of Death Game on our bikes, and it's been terrific. And I fell off and I hurt my wrist or something, and my mother's pretty angry with me, but I still love it. And I'm when I'm better, I'm going to be back there and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was good. As always with Action, the problem was we had these great ideas, but the whole comic was produced too quickly, and there were not enough people to guide it and nurture it through its teething pains.
Leading on to this idea of a lack of development of characters, what did you feel about Blackjack when he was reinvented as a blind, kung fu kicking soul singer?
Well, the idea of Blackjack in the first place had been to have a black hero, because I thought this was important, and it was quite popular as a black boxer. If you make him into something else, you're in dangerous territory. I think if you stick within certain parameters, I think you're okay. In other words, Black Boxer arguably could be written by anyone, because a lot of people are into boxing and so on. But once you start moving into black culture, I firmly believe that it has to either be written by a black guy or co-written with a black guy. And that's why, for example, later on Crises, when I was writing some black characters, and I wanted to explore black culture, I went out and found a black co-writer, and we were able to say some things that, if I'd said alone, I'd have been, I'd have been lynched. You just couldn't say these things. So in that sense, I think, I don't remember the story that well, but I think it was against the spirit of Action, which was to try to be authentic. Now, being authentic is still a dirty word in comics, except in my view, the European comics. There is more of a move toward authenticity, but not enough. And Action was the first, alongside Battle, to really try and create credible scenarios. So if you have, let's say, a plane attacking a troop convoy, somebody's actually done their research and knows what they're talking about. In other words, it's not just banged out in the morning by someone who's watched it on some movie or something. I don't care for that approach.
Thoughts and feelings on Hell's Highway?
Hell's Highway is a blank in my head. In other words, I don't remember much about it, but my first thought on it is there's certain no-nos in comics, and people to this day do not seem to have grasped this particular nettle, which actually isn't that difficult to grasp, which is the harsh reality is you have to have the hero's name in the title. And if you don't, it's going to be an uphill struggle to make that story popular. And Hell's Highway, who's the hero? What is it? Okay, it's a bunch of lorry drivers or something. It's not in the title has to be, the hero's name's got to be there, and it's missing. The second thing is, if you make a vehicle the hero, which I suspect it might, then it's a lot harder. You can get away with a fish being a hero, but I'm not sure you can get away with a lorry. It's bloody difficult, you know. You're going to have to tell me what's triggered that.
Just the idea of the truck being the hero. Sorry, that was really funny. Because it was just them driving the truck and then being attacked by zombies or machine guns and things.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, they were kind of blackmailed by the CIA just to drive dangerous loads. They didn't know what was on board the truck, and sometimes it would be chemical, sometimes it would be Cuban.
And the problem with that is, at the end of the day, it's the blonde-haired guy and the black-haired guy in a cab of a lorry. It doesn't work. It's not iconic.
Well, he just resort to like mowing a lot of people over with the truck. So you always die horribly with just a truck every week. And then,
you see, that's one of the problems, that where action went, you could say there's a phrase of Jerry Finley Days, it had the symptoms but not the disease. In other words, you think, okay, what's going to work for our street level audience? Okay, let's have a road movie, where all kinds of horrible things happen on the road. Now, if you look at the road movies that work, very few of them are really major sellers. They're sort of okay, but the things that really sell are things like Dirty Harry, where you really focus on the hero, and the hero becomes iconic. Offhand, I can't think of any Thelma and Louise, because you're focusing on Thelma and Louise. Okay, they're causing all this mayhem along the road, but what makes it so fantastic is you've got these great gutsy women who are, and they've got their issues as to why they're hitting the road, and that's what makes it memorable. Now, if you just got two guys working for the CIA who are, coming up against here, there, and everywhere, it's not enough. And particularly in comics, there's a physical problem. If they're inside a cab, right, they're tiny little images, and what's big is the vehicle. So the vehicle, whether you like it or not, becomes the hero, or becomes the central image. So if the vehicle is absolutely astonishing, maybe, just maybe, but it's all uphill work. In other words, the thinking is fundamentally wrong. Yeah.
Also, thoughts, things like Kids Rule.
I think these post-disaster concepts are okay. I think I can see the logic behind it, but I like to think that behind the most successful action stories, rightly or wrongly, there's a sense of credibility and there's a sense of agenda. There's something behind it that drives it that little bit further. And I think in the case of Kids Are All Okay, that may not have been there. It's hard to encapsulate, but the story should be proactive and the characters should be sympathetic. Now, my recollection of Kids Are All Okay is these kids running rampant and killing people left, right and centre. Now, that might have an appeal on one level. It's certainly going to horrify adults then, and if one was to do it today now. But I think my impression, at least, of it, perhaps I'm wrong here, is that it felt gratuitous.